ओम ज्ञानं तिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वरूपं तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरु वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सैगन्धगुणान्वितं तं सजीवं साधुवेतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदां सैगन्धलता श्रीवेशाखावितं च। नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पार्षदेश तारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपीकांत राधाकांत नमस्ते तप्त कंचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। हम शुरू
बट वंश से पढ़ना है। Hare Krishna. But once Ajamil, following the order of his father, went to the forest to collect fruits and flowers. On the way home, he came upon a very lusty, low-class man, shamelessly embracing and kissing a prostitute. The man was smiling, singing, and enjoying himself as if this were proper behavior. Both of man and Both the man and prostitute were drunk. The prostitute's eyes were rolling in intoxication, and her dress had become loose, partially exposing her body. When Ajamil saw this prostitute, the dormant, lusty desires in his heart awakened, and in illusion, he fell under their control. He tried to remember the instructions of the scriptures, and with the help of his knowledge and intellect, he tried to control his lust. But because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he was unable to control his mind. After that, he always thought of the prostitute, and within a short time, he took her in as a servant in his house.
issue Prabhu.
Jamil then gave up all the spiritual practices. He spent the money he had inherited from his father for presents for the prostitute, and even rejected his beautiful young wife, who came from a respectable Brahmana family.
माता जी आपकी वॉइस बहुत लो आ रही है। थोड़ा सा बोलिए माता जी। हाँ ठीक है। नहीं वो फिर डिस्टर्बेंस आ रही है क्या? अब हाँ अब ठीक लग रही है।
Okay. Okay. So, and used it to maintain the prostitutes' sons and daughters. Before death, he did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him to the court of Yamraj. There, according to the extent of his sinful acts, he will be punished and then return to the material world in a suitable body.
After hearing the statements of the Yamduta, the servants of the Lord Vishnu, who are always expert in logic and argument, replied, how painful is it to see that those in charge of upholding religious principles are needlessly punishing an innocent person. Ajamil has already atoned for all his sins. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in this life, but for those performed in millions of previous lives as well, because he chanted the holy name of Narayana in a helpless state of mind at the time of death. Therefore, he is now pure and eligible for liberation from the cycle of reincarnation. Yes, Prabhu. जी पढ़ लिए थे। Okay.
The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutta said, is the best process of atonement for a thief or a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a priest, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, it is my duty to give him protection.
Hmm.
In the present age of quarrel and hypocrisy, one who wants liberation from the reincarnation should chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the great mantra of deliverance, because it completely cleanses the hearts of all the material desire that kept one trapped in the cycle of birth and death.
Hmm. Swati Mataji. माता जी म्यूट पे है.
Sorry. The Vishnu Dutta said, one who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants jokingly or for musical entertainment. This is accepted in the scriptures and by all learned scholars.
Hmm. If one chants the holy name of Lord Krishna and then dies in an accident or is killed by a deadly animal or from disease or by weapon, one is immediately freed from having to take birth again. As a fire burns dry grass to ashes, the holy name of Krishna burns to ashes all of one's karmic reactions. Yes, Prabhuji.
The Vishnu Dutta then said, if a person unaware of the potency of a medicine takes that medicine or is forced to take it, it will act even without his knowledge. Even if one doesn't know the value of chanting the holy name of the Lord, the chanting will still be effective in liberating one from reincarnation.
At the time of the death, said the Vishnu Dutta, Ajamil helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of Lord Narayana. That chanting alone has already freed him from having to take birth again for his sinful life. Therefore, do not try to take him to your master for punishment by another term of imprisonment in a material body.
The Vishnu Dutas then released Ajamil from the ropes of the servants of the Lord of Death. Ajamil came to his senses and, free from fear, paid his heartful respects to the Vishnu Dutas by bowing his head at their feet. But when the Vishnu Dutas saw that Ajamil was trying to say something to them, they disappeared.
Hmm. Was this a dream I saw? Ajamil wondered. Or was it reality? I saw a fearsome man with ropes in their hands coming to drag me away. Where have they gone? And where are those four radiant persons who saved me?
Ajamil then began to reflect on his life. Being a servant of my senses, how degraded I became. I fell down from my position as a saintly Brahmin and begot children in the womb of a prostitute. Indeed, I gave up my chaste and beautiful young wife. What's more, my father and mother were old and had no other friend or son to look after them. Because I did not take care of them, they lived with great pain and difficulty. It is now clear that a sinful person like myself should have been forced in his next life to suffer hellishly.
I'm such an unfortunate person, said Ajamil. But now that I have another chance, I must try to become free from the vicious cycle of birth and death.
Ajamil immediately renounced his prostitute wife and journeyed to Hardwar. a place of pilgrimage in the Himalaya mountains. There he took shelter at a Vishnu temple where he practiced Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. When his mind and intelligence were fixed in a perfect meditation on the form of the Lord, Ajamil again saw before him four celestial beings. Recognizing them as the same Vishnu Dutas who had served him from the agents of who had saved him from the agents of death, he bowed down before them.
Kanak?
There at Haridwar, on the banks of the Gangas, Ajamil gave up his temporary material body and regained his eternal spiritual form. Accompanied by the Vishnu Dutas, he boarded a golden aircraft and passing through the airways went directly to the abode of Lord Vishnu, never again to reincarnate in this material world.
Hmm. So, moving on to the chapter 5, the soul's secret journey. Excerpts from the writings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One life is just a flash in time. From time immemorial, the living entity travels in different species of life in the different planets almost perpetually. The process is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Under the spell of Maya, everyone is wandering throughout the universe on the carriage of the body offered by the material energy. Materialistic life involves a series of actions and reactions. It is a long film spool of actions and reactions, and one lifespan is just a flash in such a reactionary show. When a child is born, it is to be understood that his particular type of body is the beginning of another set of activities. And when an old man dies, it is to be understood that one set of reactionary activities is finished. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.31.44. Yes, Prabhuji.
You get the body of your choice. The living entity creates his own body by his personal desires, and the external energy of Lord supplies him with the exact form by which he can enjoy his desires to the fullest extent. The tiger wanted to enjoy the blood of another animal. Therefore, by the grace of the Lord, the material body supplied him the body of the tiger, which facilitated for enjoying blood from another animal.
Hmm.
Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.2.
Death means forgetting your last life. After death, one forgets everything about the present bodily relationship. We have a little experience of this night when we go to sleep. While sleeping, we forget everything about this body and bodily relations. Although this forgetfulness is a temporary situation for all of few hours, only a few hours. Death is nothing but sleeping for a few months in order to develop another term of bodily engagement, which we are awarded by the law of nature according to our aspiration. Therefore, one has only chance, only therefore one has only to change the aspiration during the course of this present body. And for this, there is a need of training in the current direction of human life. This training can be begun at any stage of life or even a few seconds before the death. But usually, procedure is for one to get training for the training can be begun at the stage of a life or even a few seconds before the death. But the usual procedure is for one to get training from very early life. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.15.
The soul takes a human form first. Originally, the living entity is a spiritual being, but when he desires to enjoy this material world, he comes down. We can understand that the living entity first accepts a body that is human in form, but gradually, due to his degraded activities, he falls into lower forms of life, into the animal, plant, and aquatic forms. By the gradual process of evolution, the living entity again attains the body of a human being and is given another chance to get out of the process of transmigration. If he again misses his chance in the human form to understand his position, he is again placed in the cycle of birth and death in various types of bodies. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.2, 29.4.
The science of reincarnation is unknown to modern scientists. The science of transmigration is completely unknown to modern scientists. So called scientists do not like to bother with these things because if they would at all consider this subtle subject matter and the problems of life, they would see that their future is very dark. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.28.21.
Ignorance of reincarnation is dangerous. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities, and therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live a life to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children without any desire to get out of such comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prized post until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of the homely comfort. But bound by such hallucinations, materialistic man prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life. But suddenly cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 84 lakh species of life according to the fruits of the work he has performed. Yes,
In the next in the next life, persons who were too attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all the energy of the human life is spoiled. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the human form and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. The principle is that one should take it for granted that death warning is already there even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age, and thus at any stage of life, one should prepare himself for a better next life.
yes. Issue
To dust, though salt return. Salt return. When we when we die, this material body composed of five elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether, decomposes, and the gross material returns to the elements. Or as the Christian Bible says, dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. In some society, the body is burned; in another, it is buried. And in India, the Hindu burns the body, and thus body is transformed into ashes. Ash is simply another form of earth. Christians bury the body, and after some time in the grave, the body eventually turns to dust, which again, like ash, is another form of earth. The Parsis community in India that neither burns nor buries the body, but they throw it to the vultures, and the vultures immediately come to eat the body, and then the body is eventually transformed into stool. So, in any case, this beautiful body, which we are soaping and caring for so nicely, will eventually turn into either stool, ashes, or dust. At death, the final element, mind, intelligence, and ego, carry the small particle of spirit soul to another body to suffer or enjoy according to one's work. The path of perfection, phrase 101.
Astrology and reincarnation. Astronomical calculations of stellar influences upon a living being are not suppositions, but are factual, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every living being is controlled by the laws of nature at every minute, just as a citizen is controlled by the influence of the state. The state laws are grossly observed, but the laws of material nature, being settled to our gross understanding, cannot be experienced grossly.
The law of nature is so subtle that every part of our body is influenced by the respective stars, and a living being obtains his working body to fulfill his terms of imprisonment by the manipulation of such astronomical influences. A man's destiny is therefore ascertained by the birth time, constellation of stars, and a factual horoscope is made by a learned astrologer. It is a great science, and a misuse of science does not make it Please scroll down. Useless.
This suitable arrangement of astral influences is never a creation of man's will, but is the arrangement of the superior management of the agency of the Supreme Lord. Of course, the arrangement is made according to the good or bad deeds of the living being. Herein lies the importance of pious acts performed by the living being. Only the pious acts can be allowed to get good wealth, good education, and beautiful features. Srimad Bhagavatam. Editor's note: the term learned in this section refers to one fully learned in exacting Vedic science of astrology in comparison with modern popular astrology is a foolish exercise and sentimentally compounded with error. Okay.
Your thoughts create your next body. The subtle forms exist in the ether has been proven by modern science by transmission of television, by which forms or photographs of one place are transmitted to another place by the action of the ethereal element. Within the Srimad Bhagavatam is the potential basis of great scientific research work, for it explains how subtle forms are generated from the ethereal element, what their characteristics and actions are, and how the tangible elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth, are manifested from the subtle form. Mental activities or psychological activities of thinking, feeling, willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. The statement Bhagavad Gita that the mental situation at the time of death is the basis for the next life is also corroborated in many places in the Bhagavatam. Mental existence transforms into certain tangible form as soon as there is an opportunity. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:26-34.
Issue proof.
Why some people can't accept reincarnation? There is a life after death, and there is also the chance to free oneself from the cycle of repeated birth and death, and attain a life of immortality. But because we have accustomed to accepting one body after another since time immemorial, it is difficult for us to think of a life that is eternal. And the life of material existence is so troublesome that one may think that if there is an eternal life, that life must be troublesome also. For example, a deceased man who is taking very bitter medicine and who is lying down in bed, eating there and passing stool and urine there, unable to move, may find his life so intolerable that he thinks, let me commit suicide. Similarly, materialistic life is also miserable, that in depression one one sometimes take to a philosophy of voidism or impersonalism to take to try to negate his very existence and make everything zero. Actually, however, becoming zero is not possible, nor it is necessary. We are in trouble in our material condition, but when we get out of a material condition, we can find a real life, eternal life. Teaching of Queen Kunti, para 107, page 107, I guess. Yeah.
Just a few more years. Karma is the aggregate fruitive activities conducted to make this body comfortable or uncomfortable. We have actually seen that when one man was about to die, he requested his physician to give him a chance to live 4 more years so that he could finish his plans. This means that while dying, he was thinking of his plans. After his body was destroyed, he doubtlessly carried his plans with him by means of the subtle body, composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. Thus, he would get another chance to, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, who is always within the heart. In the next birth, one acquires remembrance from the Super Soul and begins to execute plans begun in the previous life. Situated on the vehicle given by material nature and reminded by the Super Soul within the heart, the living entity struggles all over the universe to fulfill his plans. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.29.62.
Sex change without surgery. A man gets his next life's birth according to what he thinks of at the time of death. If someone is too attached to his wife, naturally he thinks of his wife at the time of death, and in the next life he takes the body of a woman. Similarly, if a woman thinks of her husband at the time of death, naturally she gets the body of a man in her next life. We should always remember, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, that both the gross and subtle material bodies are dresses. They are the shirt and coat of the living entity. To be either a woman or a man involves only one's bodily dress. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.31.4.
Okay. So can we stop here, Guruji? Or we should continue?
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
We can start with a discussion or realization or doubts. Kanak, you want to share something?
Whatever I read, so I understand that only ki we have to understand कि we are at the soul level, not on the bodily level. And मतलब ये वाला भी जो मैंने लास्ट पैराग्राफ पढ़ा उससे तो ये भी समझ आता है कि साइंटिस्ट इतना ज्यादा एडवांस कर चुके हैं कि हम लोग ये देखते हैं कि लोग अभी भी सेक्स चेंज करवाते हैं, बट इट ऑटोमेटिकली गेट चेंजेस व्हेन वी ट्रांसफॉर्म इन अनदर बॉडी. तो मतलब एवरीथिंग इज सो नेचुरल दैट वी डोंट हैव टू टेक एनी एफर्ट्स एंड डिपेंड्स अपॉन अस. हम लोग अभी भी बॉडीली कॉन्सेप्ट में इतना ज्यादा फंसे हुए हैं कि वी डोंट अंडरस्टैंड द रियल पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ. तो ये मेरा रियलाइजेशन है कि मतलब हम लोग इतने ज्यादा ग्रॉसली अटैच्ड हैं चीजों से कि हमें खुद को रियलाइज नहीं है. और साइंटिस्ट कितना ज्यादा मनी वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, डॉक्टर्स वगैरह इन मल्टीपल सर्जरीज. They don't understand ki what is the real purpose. They are just going and going. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Swati Mataji, you want to share something? Hare Krishna.
इसमें प्रभुपाद जी वैसे तो बहुत बता रहे हैं लाइक रीइंकार्नेशन का भी बता रहे हैं कि कैसे पास्ट एक्टिविटीज पे जो भी हमारी होती है पास्ट लाइफ.
Mataji, आपकी वॉइस वो पहले वाली प्रॉब्लम.
ठीक है
अब ठीक है.
प्रभु.
ठीक है, अब ठीक है माताजी.
ओके. सो प्रभुपाद जी ने एक्सप्लेन किया कि कैसे हमारी पास्ट एक्टिविटीज जो होती हैं वही हमारी नेक्स्ट लाइफ डिसाइड करती हैं. तो जैसे कनक माता जी ने बताया तो वो भी उसमें फिर प्रभुपाद जी ने एग्जांपल दिया कि कोई अपनी वाइफ के बारे में ही सोच रहा है अगर, तो उसे नेक्स्ट लाइफ एक विमेन की मिलेगी, या कोई विमेन है वो अपने हस्बैंड के बारे में ही सोच रही है, देन शी विल गेट अ बॉडी ऑफ अ मैन इन हर नेक्स्ट लाइफ. तो वो बहुत डिपेंड करता है कि हम क्या सोच रहे हैं, तो वैसी बॉडी मिल जाएगी. जैसे हमने कल पढ़ा भी था वो भरत महाराज का. तो एंड सेकेंड थिंग प्रभुपाद जी ने ये भी बताया है कि जो मॉडर्न साइंटिस्ट हैं वो एक्चुअली मतलब या कोई भी वो क्यों नहीं सोच मतलब या मानता है या सोचता है अबाउट नेक्स्ट लाइफ. एस्ट्रोलॉजी के बारे में बताया प्रभुपाद ने कि जिससे ये भी पता लगता है कि एक्चुअली अगर हम अपने स्क्रिप्चर्स के हिसाब से देखें तो एस्ट्रोलॉजी होती है कुछ ये भी. बट उसमें फिर प्रभुपाद बता रहे हैं कि मॉडर्न तरीके के जो एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स हैं उनके लिए नहीं बोल रहे. प्रभुपाद कह रहे हैं जो एक्चुअल तो वही है जो वैदिक स्क्रिप्चर्स के थ्रू बता रहे हैं लाइफ के बारे में. या दैट्स इट.
ओके, थैंक यू माताजी. मेरे को 2 पॉइंट अच्छे लगे. एक तो मतलब एक बताया प्रभुपाद ने कि अगर हम होमली एक्टिविटीज में लगे रहते हैं, फैमिली को मेंटेन करना, बॉडी को मेंटेन करना और मतलब इन सब चीज़ों बॉडी लेवल पे ही चीज़ों को मेंटेन करने में लगे रहते हैं, तो वो हमें मल्टीपल चीज़ में फंसने से कोई नहीं रोक सकता. आप चाहे कितना ही उस चीज़ में एडवांस कर लो, वो सब जीरो है अगर हम सिर्फ बॉडी लेवल पे देखते हैं तो एक तो वो है कि मतलब ऐसा मतलब डिटैचमेंट शुड बी देयर, और मतलब तो वो उससे बचने के लिए दूसरा ये भी है, दूसरा पॉइंट इसमें ये है कि अभी उसमें 3 एग्जांपल दिए प्रभुपाद की, हिंदुओं में जला देते हैं, क्रिश्चियंस में दफना देते हैं, मुस्लिम्स में, और पारसीज का मेरे को बहुत नया पता चला कि वो लोग कहीं बॉडी फेंक देते हैं क्योंकि वल्चर्स उन्हें आगे खाते हैं। तो एट लास्ट अल्टीमेटली जो बॉडी जो है जिसे हम पूरी लाइफ संभालते संजोते रहते हैं, जिस लेवल हम जीते रहते हैं, वो अल्टीमेटली इट विल बी कन्वर्टेड इन, तो वो मिट्टी में मिल जाती है, तो इट हैज नो रेलेवेंस। और वो इट इज लाइक, उसमें प्रभुपाद बताया कि ये बिल्कुल ऐसा है कि जैसे बच्चा पैदा होता है, वो कुछ एक्टिविटीज, अब मतलब बच्चे पैदा होने का मतलब है कुछ एक्टिविटीज उसकी स्टार्ट होने वाली हैं कॉन्सिक्वेंशली, और मरने के टाइम ऐसा होता है कि अब इसकी एक सॉर्ट ऑफ एक्टिविटीज खत्म हो गई हैं, बट इट इज अ प्रोसेस। ऐसा नहीं है कि देयर इज नो लाइफ आफ्टर डेथ। तो वो ऐसा बता रहे हैं कि बस एक सॉर्ट ऑफ एक्टिविटीज खत्म हो गई है जिसके लिए उसकी बॉडी डिजाइन हुई थी। तो ऐसा नहीं, इसका मतलब ये है कि वो कंटिन्यू आगे किसी और बॉडी में अदर अदर फॉर्म ऑफ एक्शन वो कंटिन्यू करेगा, अगर वो कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस में नहीं मरता है, या फिर अध्यात्म जीवन नहीं अपनाता है, या फिर हरि नाम का उच्चारण नहीं करता है। अजामिल की कथा से भी यही यही सीखने को मिला हमें, जो अजामिल की कथा थी। हाँ, यस, यही मेरे पॉइंट्स थे। दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माय साइड। इशू प्रभु, यू वांट टू शेयर समथिंग?
प्रभु जी ऐसा कुछ ऐड करने के लिए नहीं है, बट लास्ट में वो वाला जो आया था ना अजामिल का, दैट ही get perfected his life by chanting the holy name, बस that is the point I like the most, कि प्रभुपाद बता रहे हैं कि while committing another sins, if person takes or tries to cleanse their heart and sincerely give the sincerely start practicing the chanting of holy name and the devotional life. So how merciful God is, Prabhupada is showing this. After doing that sin, also Ajamil got liberation from all the sinful activities. So here it's not about the sinful activities, but about the glories of name in itself, that how it will take time to actually realize that how grateful yantra it is. Prabhupada is given the device to get liberated from this material world. I don't know कि अभी तो जैसे तैसे 16 माला होती हैं, but I believe that after some time it will also show the results कि हाँ ये हरिनाम मतलब हमारे और आपसे सोचने से कहीं बहुत ऊपर है। मतलब it will take time eventually to realize these things, but yeah, this is all from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Ashwini Prabhu.
तो अजामिल के पास टाइम से ही हम लोग को ये लर्निंग मिलता है कि इग्नोरेंस इज नॉट एन एक्सक्यूज। जैसे हम लोग देखते हैं कि अगर कोई बोले कि मान लीजिए हम जनरल बातों में भी देखते हैं, कोई बोले कि नहीं नहीं फिर आपको ये कर देना चाहिए था, तो कई बार नहीं भाई साहब समझिए ना, हम क्यों करते हैं, हम भी तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में थे ना, हमें करना पड़ा ये, ऐसे कई बार ऐसे सिचुएशन में थे, मजबूरी हो गई हमारी। तो ये जो मजबूरी है, यहाँ के संसार में तो हम कुछ भी बोल सकते हैं, कोई अथॉरिटी नहीं है ऊपर। बट मान लीजिए कि अजामिल जैसा व्यक्ति जो वो ये कह सकता है कि आप मुझे दंड क्यों दे रहे हैं, आप देखिए ना मेरी सिचुएशन कैसी हो गई थी, मैं तो लगा हुआ ही था भगवान के सेवा में, फूल लेने गया था भगवान के लिए, बट अब मेरे सिचुएशन समझिए ना, एकदम से फिर मैंने जो सीन देख लिया, मैं क्या करता। बट दिस टाइप ऑफ इग्नोरेंस इज नॉट एन एक्सक्यूज for any serious practitioner to get trapped in. तो इसलिए we have to be very very cautious जब हम जब कर रहे हैं, भगवान की सेवा कर रहे हैं, कि हम किसी भी तरह के ट्रैप में माया के ना फंसे, क्योंकि फंस गए तो फिर वो एक्सक्यूज नहीं है, फिर कुटाई तय है। So that is one. Secondly, why the lusty desires are more dangerous? बिकॉज वैसे तो बाकी सेंसेस से भी अपराध करते हैं, तो वो भी एक्सक्यूजेबल तो कोई भी नहीं है, बट स्पेशली लस्टी डिजायर्स में भक्ति बहुत ज्यादा डिग्रेड होती है एकदम से। कई बार भक्त लोग जैसे डिस्कस भी करते हैं कि गुरु जी मुझे ये गलत हैबिट है पर मैं 16 माला कर रहा हूँ, तो इमीडिएटली हम कहते हैं नहीं पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, आप 16 माला कर पाएंगे, टेस्ट ही नहीं आएगा आपको। 16 माला करना डेली मतलब आपको कुछ टेस्ट आ चुका है चैंटिंग में, बट एज सुन एज यू डू एनी टाइप ऑफ lusty activity, then you are gone. You cannot do chanting. Two things cannot go together. But so one thing is that why this activity is has a lot of sinful consideration. अदर भी है, जैसे मान लीजिए कि हम प्रसाद खाएं कृष्ण कॉन्शियस, प्रसाद ना खा के हम जनरल प्रसाद खाएं बिना ऑफर के, तो वो भी एक अपराध ही है, बट वो इतना बड़ा नहीं माना जाएगा। और अगर कोई सिंफुल एक्टिविटी कर दे आउट ऑफ लस्ट, वो बहुत माना जाएगा। क्यों? क्योंकि दिस लस्टफुल डिजायर्स की तरह जो एक्टिविटी होती है आउट ऑफ लस्ट डिजायर, उसमें सारी सेंसेस अपराध करती हैं, है ना। सेक्सुअल एक्टिविटी में क्या सारी सेंसेस एंगेज हैं, इसलिए अपराध कई टाइम्स बढ़ जाता है, काफी टाइम्स बढ़ जाता है। इसलिए लस्टफुल एक्टिविटीज सिंफुल को इतना बड़ा सिन माना गया है, ना सिर्फ हमारे शास्त्रों में बल्कि बाइबल और कुरान में भी, कि क्योंकि जैसे ही कोई इसमें जाएगा वो तुरंत अपने आध्यात्मिक पद से च्युत हो जाएगा। च्युत मतलब गिर जाएगा वहां से। तो इसलिए आजकल का जो सिनेमा है, यूट्यूब है, हम लोग सेवाएं करते हैं तो हम उसको बड़ा ध्यान रखते हैं, इसीलिए क्योंकि बहुत डेंजरस है एटमोसफेयर आसपास भी। तो बाहर निकलते भी हैं तो इसलिए हम लोगों को देखना चाहिए आसपास, स्पेशली प्रभु जी लोगों को, कि हम लोग के जो आईज है ना, once it places at an object, immediately we start gratifying that object. That becomes a problem until we go to purification process. This will keep going. That is one. And lastly, Mahamantra is there, and we also heard the glories of Mahamantra. All those things are definitely there. But we should understand that Ajamil chanted Krishna's name in Namabhas stage. We have 3 stages: Namaprad, Namabhas, and Shuddhnam. तो जब नामाभास स्टेज में चैंटिंग हो रही है तब वो एक्चुअली चैंटिंग है। उससे पहले जो नाम अपराध की चैंटिंग है वो ऐसे है कि हम उस रोड को पकड़ लिए हैं जो रोड वृंदावन जा रही है, बट अभी वृंदावन पहुंचे नहीं है ना। तो वो एक तरह से अच्छा है। बाकी लोग तो सड़कों पे ढूंढ रहे हैं बट उन्हें पता ही नहीं वृंदावन है क्या क्या नहीं। हम एटलीस्ट रोड पे आ गए हैं जो भी चैंटिंग कर रहे हैं। तो जब तक ये नाम अपराध की स्टेज नहीं जाती है तो और नामाभास तक नहीं आते हैं एटलीस्ट, तब तक स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड का रास्ता क्लियर नहीं होता है। तो these are the 3 learnings. Thank you so much, Aditya.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's an amazing point. Okay, anything anyone wants to add? Okay, so we can stop here. Vancha kalpatru
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.